Hello and welcome to this podcast from Cambridge International. My name is Roshan, Senior Recognitions Manager here at Cambridge International. And today we're talking about your options after you complete your Cambridge International qualifications. The most popular university destination country for Cambridge learners globally is the UK. With a highly regarded higher education sector, some great student cities and a diverse international student community, studying in the UK is a popular choice for many and indeed for many of our Cambridge learners. However, things are a little bit different this year. As you'll know, your Cambridge International qualifications have been awarded using a different process for this series, and universities in the UK are currently teaching online. In this podcast, we'll explore what it means for those of you thinking about studying in the UK, either in September this year, 2020, or perhaps looking ahead to 2021. To discuss these topics and much more, I'm pleased to be joined by two experts from two leading UK universities, from Emma Thomas, City University of London, and Alex Dimmock from the University of Bristol. Welcome both. Perhaps you could start, Alex, first of all, by telling us a bit about your university and your role.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. I'm Alex Dimmock. I'm Head of Undergraduate Admissions at Bristol University. I have been working on and off at the university. I've also worked at Bath University since 2014, and basically all of my roles have been within the admissions area. Bristol University is a Russell Group institution with a long-standing history. We're based obviously in Bristol in the southwest of the UK, and we're a top 10 UK university. But we're sort of small enough to feel warm and friendly, really keen on kind of well-being, with well-being advisors kind of within our university residences and within our academic schools to support students with personal tutors and additional support services, which I think, especially in light of COVID-19, will be particularly important. We are ranked 6th in the UK for graduate employability, and City Life in Bristol has been voted best in Britain in a major survey of 20,000 students across the country, and we won City Life. I think we came top in the City Life category in the 2015 What Uni Student Choice Awards.
Thank you very much, Alex. Welcome. And Emma, over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Emma Thomas, and I currently work at City University of London in our international group team. I've actually been working in higher education for over about 8 years now in various different roles, in accommodation, in admissions, and now recruitment, which I absolutely love. I obviously work at City, and we are based in central London. So if you know London, we're very close to Farringdon, Barbican, so we're right in the city centre, zone 1. We're probably most well known for our links with the business professional world. We have a very famous business school, for example, and we have around 20,000 students. Around 50% of those students are actually international, so we have a huge international student body. And yeah, in terms of employability, we're ranked consistently among the top. We've been 11th this year in the Times, and yeah, we are middle-sized, as I said in my introduction, but we have a really big international body, which we're really proud of.
Great, thank you very much, Emma. So on to some questions then from our schools and from the Cambridge community. And the first one at the top of our mind really for many Cambridge learners is, will their Cambridge International AS and A levels or their pre-U be accepted in the same way this year for entry to undergraduate courses, despite the different approach that's being used to award their grades this year? Alex, maybe we can start with you on this one.
Yeah, so of course Bristol are aware, and all Emma will agree with me, I'm sure, but all higher education institutions in the UK really very much aware that exams have been cancelled, postponed, and there are alternative methods of assessment being used. And Bristol's approach, along with I'm sure many other universities, will be that we are accepting the final official kind of calculated or awarded grades where they're given or awarded. So however the examining boards have decided to give the student a grade, that is what we will accept. Similarly, with anybody coming in to do postgraduate, we will accept how their institution where they've done their undergraduate degree have awarded their degree. At this time, it's not looking like we would confirm places based on predicted grades, we will be looking for a grade to have been awarded to a student. Given that, we are aware that some final grades won't be awarded because they've been postponed or cancelled completely, or we've got students as private candidates. So we are looking at the government advice and Ofqual advice on that. And we are actively working on how we will be able to admit those students and provide further information, and we will provide further information as soon as it's available. And we're asking students, if they know they're not going to be able to meet the terms of their offer using the qualifications that they plan to take, please get in touch with our inquiries or admissions team, and we will work with the student to see if there's alternative evidence that we could use to admit them to the university, because we want to make sure that where possible we can admit them and they can come.
Thanks. And is that a similar approach taken at City then with regard to the grades this year?
Yes, definitely. I just want to echo everything Alexandra said. I think a lot of the universities in the UK will be following pretty much the same. And yeah, we are viewing the qualifications in exactly the same way as previous years, but with the understanding that there might be some flexibility. We do kind of look at the fact that the exam boards will be taking mitigating circumstances into consideration. But as Alexandria said, please get in contact with universities if you think that you have been unfairly assessed, or you potentially want to provide physical evidence. Please get in contact with universities in the first instance, and don't panic really to get your results. Please contact us.
I think that might be one of our themes today in terms of keeping that communication open with universities and, to all of the schools and to counsellors. As Emma said, if you do have students with particular extenuating circumstances, I think universities always want to be made aware of that and can look at where necessary. So I'm sure you hear lots about communication today. So one of the things that many of our students internationally are concerned about is meeting English language requirements. As you know, some test centres have been closed and students haven't been able to complete the assessments that they would have done otherwise. So starting perhaps, Emma, with you first of all, could you tell us what other options maybe the university is looking at, whether Cambridge IGCSE is considered for meeting English language requirements, and whether there is any other flexibility this year?
Yes, of course. We are completely understanding. We know that test centres are closed across the world. So we have been working hard to look at other options that our students can take during this time. So we do actually already accept the IGCSE English grades. So there are certain syllabuses that we do accept, and we are going to be more flexible with other syllabus as well, potentially. But it is always really preferred in the first instance to contact the universities just to make sure that you've done the right syllabuses, you're doing the right IGCSE option for us to accept that. But we're also accepting other English language tests online. One of those is the at-home TOEFL, for example. We're looking into the new IELTS online. So there are other options that we're hoping to make available to students. But yes, if your students have done the IGCSE, then it's more than likely that we can accept that as proof of English language proficiency.
And is that a similar approach taken at Bristol then?
Yes, so we've updated our English language profiles for this year specifically. So and we will see if we then want to accept those qualifications going forward. But for this particular cycle, ahead of September, we have expanded the list of qualifications that we can accept. And that was updated sort of earlier in May on our web pages, so under our individual English language profile pages. But some of the qualifications we're now accepting include the Duolingo online test, NC UK password, the NC UK EAP, obviously the IELTS and the TOEFL online, the Bellerbys AES, and we are now accepting a Heriot Watt pre-sessional as well. And we do have some other qualifications that are currently being reviewed by our qualifications team. So if you're in any doubt, just have a look at our we've also got the FAQ pages, but it's our English language profile pages, and it will say exactly what you need to meet your profile requirements. So definitely hoping that that will allow students to meet our English language requirements taking one of those tests, many of which can be taken from home.
Thank you. So One of the other questions we received from some of our schools even is for students who perhaps would have completed assessments in June this year, and for whatever reason are now not doing so, may enter themselves as a candidate for our November series. For those students, of course, it'd be too late to start university this year. So would they be able to defer an offer and start in 2021 instead, or would they need to reapply if they were considering the UK? Alex, first of all.
So this is a bit of a tricky one, because my first thought on this, for sort of leaving the UCAS link out of it, is sort of yes, of course. So I'll start with our deferral policy remains the same. So our existing deferral policy remains the same for those who want to defer their place or no longer want to defer. So switching back, they were deferred, they want to come this September. So each of our courses details whether that course accepts deferrals, and of course it does depend whether there are spaces available on that course, whether you can sort of move, defer or bring your start date forward. So whilst we can accept those requests for a deferral, at present, students' places cannot be confirmed until we actually receive the exam results required for the conditional offer. So that is a UCAS requirement. So we're currently seeking guidance from UCAS about this kind of requirement regulation, how best to proceed with deferred applicants, where their results will be available after the current cycle, so sort of after September, October closes. And as soon as we've got some clarity on that, we'll be providing an update on our website, and people are welcome to contact me directly if they've got questions on that one. So at the moment, it would look like that student would need to reapply, and then the university would be looking at how we could make sure we were going to offer, how we honour that offer, or what we do exactly about that. But we are waiting for more information from UCAS on that one.
So I guess the answer from City would be the same then. It's a case of working obviously within the UCAS guidelines.
Exactly, yeah. It's exactly the same answer for us. So yeah, you can't currently get a conditional offer. You'd have to wait until that.
So looking ahead then to September, do we think that, obviously we don't know all the details yet, but does it look likely that teaching may commence in person this year, or will it be a case of the first semester online, or is it some kind of combination of the two? Emma, what's the approach that City's looking at the moment?
So Roshan, the university is currently monitoring, as every university is across the country, very carefully, and although we hope and plan to start this September, contingencies are being looked into, and most likely being a delayed start, but still this year. I'd like to reiterate that, and potentially online learning. This may also involve different departments in the university starting at different times, and that would be taken at department level. And it's difficult to really say. We're planning for this year, but there's lots of work behind the scenes going on to make sure that can happen in a safe way. And a decision on the most appropriate action will be taken at the time and communicated to students in good time as well.
I guess similar for Bristol, looking at a range of options then.
Yeah, absolutely. So planning is underway. So we sort of had at all stages of sort of the coronavirus outbreak, we've had sort of task forces looking at different the impact on students in different departments. So at the moment, we are planning for autumn term to start as usual in September, with welcoming back current students and new incoming students. As Emma said, there's ongoing discussion across the sector about what to do if sort of the pandemic continues, or how we can take sort of social distancing, make sure we can be compliant. So making sure that our lab spaces are compliant, for research and all those sorts of things. So various scenarios are sort of being mapped out and being looked at the moment. But having said that, Bristol is looking for autumn term to start in September, and it's likely that a variety of options could be offered to students, so they might be able to select what option will work best for them, but it could be perhaps that there is sort of a blended, in order to accommodate that social distancing, if needed, there might be sort of a mix of online learning alongside in-person learning, and as Emma said, different faculties might take different approaches of how they manage those numbers.
And a question really about, we've heard a bit about this, in recent months, of perhaps universities looking at starting courses in January, or having split starts throughout the year. Is that something that either of your institutions is looking at, or do you in any case usually have a January start for any of your undergraduate programs? For Alex, first of all.
As far as I know, I was thinking about postgraduate then, because I used to work in postgraduate, and some of our we do have some distance learning courses that come online in January. Our undergraduate programs all start in September. At the moment, I would say that the possibility of a January 2021 start is looking unlikely, given that I just said, we are planning for that September start date. So possibilities are being discussed. So sort of online learning if travel is not advisable. So how can we make sure that students who can't travel to Bristol can access the teaching, the resources, the learning, the support that they need? Obviously, sort of the option of perhaps in November, or a slightly delayed start date, but the most preferable option for Bristol being that we do kick off term as normal to try and get things moving in September. Maybe the possibility of a split start, so perhaps half a cohort starts in September and a possible later sort of intake a little bit later on. Again, these are being sort of discussed at the highest level within the university, and as soon as that information, we're having quite regular live stream events to update staff, and as soon as more information on the direction of travel and the landscape comes out, that information then gets put on our FAQ coronavirus pages for prospective students, and we update everybody. So our international office, admissions, accommodation, everybody who needs to know gets updated at the same time. So as soon as we know more, we will share it.
What about for the view from City? Do you have any options for January starters, or is this something that's being considered at all?
Yeah, similar to Bristol, really. City, we only really have a January start currently for our postgraduate. But it is definitely something, I know it's one of the potential options, but as I mentioned, September and starting this year is kind of the number one priority. And lots of different scenarios are being played out, and I think it will really depend on where we are, what the guidance is saying, what Public Health England is saying. There's a lot of things to take into consideration when we make those sort of decisions. But the conversations that we're having with students at the moment, and we've been doing lots of online events and lots of speaking with students, is that they are really keen to start this year. They really want to get things going. So we're going to try all we can to make that happen for this year.
And so when universities do reopen, either with some or all of their teaching in person, obviously it's going to look a little bit different to perhaps what it has in the past. But do you expect that students coming in from overseas will need to complete any additional health checks or take any extra steps or measures before they can enrol and before they can start taking their classes? Emma, starting with you.
Yeah, sure. I think I speak on behalf of UK universities really when I say I think the main priority is the health and well-being of the students. And I think universities are doing everything to protect students and staff. But I think this is a really difficult question to answer because we just really don't know what the world will look like, when we do start, and what external policies there might be in order for us to start as well. So I think for now it's really, really difficult to give a firm answer on that. And if there is, for whatever reason, a policy put in place where students might need to be checked or health checked, we will be doing everything possible to communicate that effectively and trying to give students as much notice as possible if that was the case. But yeah, at the moment it's really hard to say.
Yeah, Alex, did you have any more sort of thoughts or comments on that same?
Nodding along there, just that, I think all universities in the UK or sort of across the sector, we will all be kind of bound by the same rules, Public Health England, any government advice. Obviously, with the latest government update from Sunday advising sort of for some industries to go back to work, I think there have been sort of lists of guidelines and rules that are starting to come out for different sectors or industries as to what that might look like, making sure hand sanitisation, what to do about air conditioning, how do we make sure spaces, for example, at the University of Bristol, we have a lot of our offices are hot desking, so that's sort of a challenge, and so we'll have to make sure that those spaces are fit for the students, to make sure that we can look after them as best as possible, and their well-being comes first. So at this time, we just really don't know what we may have to enact due to sort of government rules or regulations. So again, when we know more, we'll put that information on the website. We'll probably communicate out to students who fall into any sort of category, if they're incoming, whatever it may be. Give them enough notice and support them with how do I do this test? Is that at Bristol? Is it with the GP? Whatever it is, we will try and take steps to make sure it's as easy to follow as possible.
Time will tell, of course, and I guess another key message for applicants is, keep an eye on your emails, keep in touch with the universities, because this information will, of course, follow in due course. Yeah. Now, every year when students get their results, there's a number that, for whatever reason, end up perhaps looking at alternative options, and this quite often can be using the clearing or the adjustment process. So students, if perhaps they haven't met their offers, can look in one way, which is the clearing scheme, or if they've met and exceeded their offer, can it maybe adjust to a different choice. So there's different options out there which our schools and our counsellors will be familiar with. Do you have any advice this year about how that process might work, if universities will operate in clearing the same way? And we've heard word from UCAS on Clearing Plus. I wondered whether you knew anything about that at this stage. It's recently been announced. Perhaps Alex, you could talk us through that.
So yes, we're expecting University of Bristol to have places available and courses available in clearing, which is good news for students. And I had seen that sort of the government are really, I don't want to say pushing, but really advertising Clearing Plus as another way to be able to come to university in September. I have been sat in on quite a few of the Clearing Plus UCAS webinars, and it is likely that University of Bristol will enter Clearing Plus for a select number of programmes. And obviously in early clearing, that works only at that stage for unplaced learners. They can enter what grades they have and what their area of interest is, sort of academic interest, and possibly put something about their location, and a magic algorithm will then match them. I think they'll be matched with sort of the top 10 best matches with their a match against their academic grades, sort of think something about location, their interest, and all that sort of stuff. And then it's on the student. So if the student is presented with this list of 10 universities that they might be interested in, it's on the student to have a look at those and see if they're interested in being contacted by, say, Bristol, sort of tick a tick box, and then we will make contact with the student to talk through what the options are. Of course, the only slight caveat I will add about clearing activity this year in Clearing Plus is student number caps, which we haven't seen in any detail of those caps yet. We haven't had anything through as far as I know. I was talking about this yesterday. So if we are capped on certain courses with numbers, then there may be slightly less places available than what we were planning to put in, if that makes sense. So again, when that news comes out, or that those numbers are given over to us, we will take that into consideration when advertising our clearing places.
And Emma, do you think City might have places available in clearing this year, and any other advice you'd have for students at that time?
Yes, so I see that we will be in clearing for some of our courses this year. And from what I gather, I believe clearing is going to be a lot different this year for some of the reasons Alex mentioned. I think as well, you're going to see maybe a move away from the kind of call centre style, potentially. Anyway, we're planning to move a lot more of it online this year at City, because obviously it really is a bit of a different world that we're living in. And I do like the idea of Clearing Plus. I think it, in clearing each year, it seems to be such a mad rush. It all seems, a bit chaotic in some places. And I do like the idea that it is a bit more of a personalised service for the student, so that they, they have a match of universities that they can approach and know that potentially that the universities that they kind of have been matched with might be a right fit for them, rather than them having to ring up different universities throughout the process. So I think at City, we definitely think that it's likely we'll be using it, and we consider it potentially to be a really useful tool just for us and also the students that will be using it.
Thanks. So again, key advice is for students, keep an eye on UCAS track, keep an eye on the website where the vacancies will be listed for those programs available in the summer, and you'll be able to take it from there, as well as using the new service. So changing tack slightly now and looking ahead to 2021, we work with schools across Europe, and many Cambridge students are EU nationals who are unsure about what the situation might be for starting university then. Do we have any more information? And I'll come to you first, Emma, on this, about what tuition fees will be like, and indeed whether students from Europe would need a visa to study in the UK from 2021 onwards.
Sure. So one thing we're not 100% clear on yet is fees. That's something that hasn't at present been announced by the government. And usually you'd hear around about this time or potentially later about that. But for obvious reasons, potentially other things going on, that hasn't been advertised yet. Currently, obviously they have EU fees, and I hope that it will stay the same for next year, but we don't know yet currently what the fees will be for 2021 new starters. That's something that needs to be advertised to students. In regards to the visa and whether a student would need a visa to study in the UK, the current guidelines given by the government are that if a student arrives into the UK after the 31st of December 2020, so if they were going to start a course, say in September 2021, then they would require a visa to study in the UK. Currently, our current students and students who are potentially starting in September this year, obviously if they start and they arrive in the UK before the 31st of December, they need to apply for settled status in the UK by the 30th of June 2021. So those are the current guidelines that we have, and the other option now for students who potentially are will have to apply for a Tier 4 visa are that they can, after they've completed their studies, actually apply for the post-study work visa, which will be a 2-year work visa after they've graduated from their bachelor's degree. So currently that's the current guidelines, and we at the universities, there's lots of talk about potentially extending the transition time, and hopefully those students in 2021 may be coming into the same bracket as the current students, but there's no clear guidelines on any of that yet.
Thank you for outlining all of that. Alex, did you have anything else that you sort of wanted to add to that, really?
No, not really. I just sort of had, students will be aware that at the moment, EU students, pay home fee status. So wherever they are in the UK, England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, they pay the same fees as students from that part of the UK. And that the fee and loan status of EU students from 2021 onwards is yet to be confirmed. So as soon as we know more, we'll start publishing that information on the website, but we're still waiting for it.
Thank you. Well, we've covered a huge range of topics today, so thanks both for all of your advice and your input. Do you have any advice, and Alex, I'll start with you, just any final advice really for students who have completed their international A-levels this year and hope to start university in September in these unusual times? Any sort of final bits of advice or pointers?
So I know people, or students in particular, are concerned about the impact of this time away from school or college, and particularly in relation to sort of work experience, because obviously we've been isolating. So I've sort of made a note to myself just to say that we're aware that applicants will be unable to do work experience during the coronavirus crisis. And we do have programmes at Bristol where previously we have outlined that students need a certain number of weeks of experience or a certain number of hours of work experience in order to apply for the course. So, for example, for veterinary science and veterinary nursing, please rest assured that we will take the current situation into account when reviewing applications. So applicants won't be penalised if their ability to gain work experience has been negatively impacted. And also for the 2021 applications for medicine, we will be taking the medical schools guidance into account as we set the entry criteria, which is still a work in progress. And as I've said, a caveat for most of these answers, we'll provide more information as soon as we have it. Still a work in progress. It will be on our website, and if you want to contact us, we are happy to talk. In terms of general advice, there is lots of information on our web pages, and we are updating them weekly. We are running an open day online on Friday the 26th of June. I believe registration for that is now open. And currently the open day for September the 5th is scheduled to go ahead as planned in person. And I'm happy to share those links with you to disseminate. There's a lot of uncertainty at this time. A lot of our answers have had that caveat that things are subject to change. And I really want to encourage students who are able and want to travel to the UK, want to travel to Bristol or City, to start their programmes in September to not be discouraged. We're not trying to put up barriers to admitting students. We want them to come, we want them to start, but we are aware that the student experience might not be, it's not going to be what they would have expected on a normal cycle, a normal year. So we are doing everything in our power to enable students to come and join the University of Bristol in person in September, trying to minimise the disruption caused. But of course we are aware that students might not want to travel, might not be able to travel. So if you've got any further questions at all, just reach out to us, and we'll try and do our best to support the students and applicants going forward.
Thank you. And Emma, any final thoughts or advice from you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just echoing everything Alex says, I think it's going to be the same for most UK universities. But we are completely understanding of the situation. And I think universities more than ever are going to be understanding, flexible, and we are all going to mitigate the impact on the students in any way that we can. A few things really for new starters, potentially starting at the end of this year or in September, is it may not be the start of university you might have thought it would be, but universities are going to support you in every way possible, and everyone is in the same situation. Just echoing what Alex said as well about really keeping contact with choices, and making sure your email address is up to date, that you're reading emails, that you're still doing research online, and attend the open days, attend the applicant days. UCAS has a whole range of resources as well which you can look for. So if you're potentially a student thinking about coming in 2021 and you're still looking to research universities, there's a really useful link which I'll tell you now, www.ucas.com/events/times, and what you'll see on that link is universities are listing all of their virtual open days, all of their applicant events, their taster days, personal statement workshops. So if you're still thinking about, you can't physically come to a university open day, or you can't physically come to an applicant day, we have moved online. We have adapted to the situation to make sure that you'd still have the same opportunities, the same resources if you were, coming to the UK yourself and actually having them as well. Using online things like UniBuddy to chat to current students. We're all in this situation together, and I think at this point, really want reassurance, and universities are going to be doing everything that they can to try and give that. And finally, we really look forward to welcoming students onto campus, hopefully this year.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Emma. Thank you both for all of your advice, your contribution, your input. It's been hugely appreciated. That is about all we've got time for this Cambridge International podcast. I hope it's been useful for you, our Cambridge school community. As you've heard, UK universities are looking at so many different options, but ultimately are there to support learners over the months, over the years ahead. And whilst we don't know all of the details, what we do know is that there is a strong commitment from UK universities to welcoming students from across the world to study here in the UK. And whether that be this year, whether it be next year, the universities look forward to welcoming you at some point. And here at Cambridge International, we continue to work with our schools to support the future plans of their students. So, from all of us here at Cambridge International, we wish you well at this time and all the very best for your next steps. Thanks again to Emma and to Alex for joining us, and we'll see you on another Cambridge International podcast soon. Thank you.